Okay, we have a CSES problem set question here called restaurant customers. In this question, we are given arrival and leaving times, and they give us n, which represents the number of customers and also represents how many lines that will come after the first line. So here, if you look at the input here, we have 5 and 8. That means a customer came in at time 5 and left at 8. The same goes for 2, 4, 3, 9. And we're trying to figure out what the maximum number of customers is in the restaurant at any given time. So for this particular case, it came out to be 2. So that would mean 2 customers is the maximum customers in the restaurant at any time. So let's look at the code here. We have it completed here. It starts with import always. You should not forget that. And then we have the static variables here. We have our buffer reader, our input string tokenizer, or our modifier for our input. We have integer n representing how many customers there are. And then we have our array list for our arrival and leaving times. And then we have our main method here. It's just a center that goes around to the other methods here. We initialize our input reader, buffer reader, and we're going to use sys.in. And then we have init, which initializes all our variables here, our n and array list in this case. So we just take a line, make it integer, that's our n. And then we have our array list here. And then we're going to for loop it for however long this n might be. So each line, each line, we're going to use the string tokenizer on it so we can split the two numbers. If you can see here, we're going to take this whole line and we take one each with each token using the string tokenizer. So we're going to add into our array list A the next token. So for this input, it would be 5. So 5 would go in with its its paired number as 1, meaning this is the arrival time, and then the next number, 8, here, is going to go in the array list as a -1. So what these two numbers would mean is that whatever is in that array list, whatever the pair, so here we have our class pair, so whatever this status is, 1 will represent arrival times and -1 will represent leaving times. So let's take a quick look at the class here. We have our class called pair, which is a standard class that just has 2 variables in it. In this case we have an integer. We have 2 integers actually. The first one represents the time, arrival or leaving. So this is our input part, and then the status part is the one that we gave 1 or -1 to. And again, 1 means arrival time, -1 means leaving time. And then we have just these helper ones down there. And then we sort our array list. The reason why we do that is because we want to put this in time order. It's like a clock for our for loop back here. Or we sort this so this for loop can work as like kind of a clock. So anyways, into the solve method, we have count and max. We're gonna be using these 2 numbers to keep track of our answer, basically. So our for loop goes around the whole array list one by one, and in this case, it's gonna go by order. So this basically acts like a clock. For this case, it would go like 2, 3, and then 5. So we are going to add into the count the status, so 1 or -1. So let's follow along with the input down here. So this input would look like this right now. So then we go in, or so it's like this, arrival, arrival, oh, leaving, arrival, leaving, and then leaving. So this is what our array list A looks like right now. So these are pair values, each of them. So then we're going through, and then we take a look at the first one's status variable, meaning only the second part of the pair, and then we add it into the count to determine if the person is still there or left. So count represents the current number of customers on the restaurant. So one person comes in, count equals 1. Another person comes in, count equals 2. And then, oh, don't forget this part of the for loop here. So every time we go through each variable pair, we're going to set max if to whatever. So we're refreshing max. So by comparing count and max and figuring out which one's the bigger one, we can always have the max to represent the maximum number that the restaurant had at any given time. So 2, 1, count equals 1, count equals 2, count goes back down to 1, 2, back down to 1, and then 0. So just saying, with our brain, just going through, speaking, we just know that it's 2, right? But for the computer, they need to keep track of the maximum. So that's why we have the maximum here, which would later ultimately represent our answer. So we just print out max, and that's that. That's our answer.